Yeah. And that's how we start shows now.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Hot Funny Meme Show. My name's Troy,
And I am Nick.
and we're coming at you live from Nick's basement, which we've fashioned into this beautiful set. Man, these are some nice curtains.
Absolutely. And
They're blue.
they're blue. We stole this look from someone else. Comments down below. See if you can guess.
Yeah. Who did we steal this
Who did
from?
we steal this look
Who do you
from?
think we stole it from?
Today, we are talking about our top 5 comedic influences. You probably have your own, but you're not here, so we're just going to talk about ours.
I think it's a good idea for us to because people maybe don't know us obviously at all well, or if they're new to the channel and don't know us personally. I think it's a good idea to be like, who are your top 5 comedians that... Now, these are kind of 2 different questions, though, and I think maybe the question we should tackle in this episode is, who are your top 5 most influential comedians? So it's like your personal favorites,
Right.
ones that you think are the best. And maybe, here's the thing, maybe they may not be the objective best comedians of all time, but they're your best.
They've affected the way you've viewed comedy, how you've... because they're all... they've all got someone else. Like, even the greats have someone that they stole from.
Yeah.
That's just kind of part and parcel, I think,
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
comedy. Is there's a lot of mimicking until you find your own voice, right?
I was listening to this podcast the other day. It's like an old episode of, I think, Opie and Anthony, and Patrice O'Neill was talking to Jim Norton and some other people on that show. Oh, Mark Maron, that's who was on, sort of the guest on the show. And they were talking about, like, comedy babies, like comedians who produce comedy babies who sort of like they kind of steal the style of the comedian.
Totally. Yeah.
And so Patrice was making the point that, like, Mark Maron had a lot of, like, comedy babies, people who like took his style
For sure.
and kind of made it their own.
Yeah.
They did say the number one person that they thought had the most comedy babies was, oh gosh, what is his name? He's Dave Attell.
I've heard this too.
Yeah. That everyone, he's just got his cadence. Oh, it's such a unique style and such a funny and effective style that, like, so many people want to take it, use it.
Absolutely.
So one of mine is going to be Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
Will Ferrell is one of the just purely funniest people. Okay, I would make a distinction where, like, I think a lot of sketch comedians and stand-up comedians, there's something just different about a sketch comedian where they just, like, a stand-up comedian to me sometimes is more like, you can be not that funny, but you can sort of, like, tweak words in such a way that, like, you can create humor out of, even though maybe you yourself are not that inherently funny. I think that sketch comedians are a lot more like, maybe they would go in the other direction where, although a lot of them are, like, brilliant with words, and Will Ferrell is one of them. He's, like, a brilliant improviser.
Absolutely, but not a stand-up. Like, as much as I know, I don't think he's ever even tried it.
No, but his energy and his acting and his behavior is just, like, he can do literally anything, and you're just, like, laughing watching him do it.
You saw the Super Bowl right?
I didn't. No, I didn't.
Oh my gosh, you have to watch this.
Okay.
For this Super Bowl, he did a commercial.
Okay. I just watched this thing recently with him where he was like a security guard at an NBA game, and he was just like, he like pointed at Shaq and he's like, he's got like this big mustache. I was like, and like it's so like, and just like his face he's just so funny.
I see a lot of Ferrell in your comedy.
Yeah, I remember you pointed this out to me. Yeah.
It's I can definitely see a lot of his moves in the way you perform. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily in your writing, in your performance. I see a lot of not his moves necessarily, but
his voice mannerisms.
yeah,
The yelling.
yes,
I'm a big yelling
you're
fan.
a big yeah.
He's maybe the best to ever do it. A lot of these guys on my list are the best yellers of all time.
You love yelling.
Yelling is very funny.
Like, come on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to just go from like 0 to 60 instantly is so funny to me.
One of my favorite Will Ferrell sketches was the SNL sketch with Pierce Brosnan.
Oh yeah.
Do you know this one where he's the new?
Yeah.
He's the boss.
He beats the hell out of someone.
He kills him with a trident.
Yeah.
It's just,
And then
it's just his back's on camera and the actor has a blood thing, and he's just, you can tell he's squirting it up at Will Ferrell, and it's just,
and the sound effect.
and he turns around and he's covered in blood.
And then he goes back and sits at the desk and he's just like, well, we're tough but fair here, and you're gonna really like it.
Yeah.
So give me another one of your influences.
I would say Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Say Jim Carrey is a big one for me. Jim Carrey has this. He does a 0 to 100 real quick, and he's very. I'm more influenced by physical comedy than I am by the spoken word. So
You are. Let me just say for the record, you're one of like the great physical comedians that I've ever seen, and maybe I'm biased just because you're my friend, but dude, some of your performances, like go watch Confidence on Embarrassing Cold channel. Also watch the COVID. I think it's just called COVID test. The COVID test.
Yeah.
On Embarrassing Cold. This guy does the funniest physical comedy, and those are two great examples of it. But you can see some of that.
You'll see the
influence there.
influences. Yeah. You'll see the influences. Like Carrey, like early Carrey.
Yeah.
Those like first 5 films he did, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, Ace Ventura. Like the physical comedy in those they're just fantastic.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And it's not just the physical comedy, but it's like I love playing a different character. So like if I want to do something funny, I would prefer it to be a character. I don't want to use my own voice. I want to be I want to have a character voice, and I want to be really expressive with my face, and that's a very Jim Carrey-esque.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's like it's big. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. How many times growing up when you were like the class clown and people were just like, "You're like Jim Carrey." That's what we both got, I'm sure, because that's what we were watching.
Totally.
And that's what we were like watching the screen, learning like, okay, so to be funny, this is how I do that.
Yeah, and his stuff was like quite outrageous.
Yeah.
And if it's physical comedy, it has no place in a classroom.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's very much like you drop the pencils and they're all over, and then you skate and you're dancing on the pencils and you fall down. You know what I mean? Like it's got no place in the classroom. It's easy to spot for a teacher. Hey, stop that, To
the principal's office. Yeah. So he's one of mine too. So we can sort of double up on him as well.
Perfect.
I'm going to give you another one of mine. Chris Farley. For, again, a lot of the same reasons that we've talked about. He's maybe the best yeller.
Yeah.
The best yeller. Whoa, no, He is pure comedy. He's just like this live wire of energy and physical comedy. And he barely says words, but he has such a good grasp on like when he does speak. So like I just watched this thing today on Chris Farley where he's on talk shows and like what he does on talk shows. And one example was like he goes up to the curtain and he's like, it was like this. And he's like, where's the curtain? What can I do with this curtain? And he's like got these glasses on. He's doing the like, the thing. And then he goes like, I'm going to take this curtain and wipe my fanny with it. And it's like, that was enough. Like, you have these stand-up comedians who are just like leading up to their jokes with like 100,000 words, and they're like, they're going over like rivers and rocks to get to the punchline, this beautiful little punchline. But he's just like, I'm gonna wipe my fanny with this, and it's so funny. It's like funnier than 90% of comedy in the world today.
It's true, because that's the thing that annoys me so much about watching stand-up comedians interview on whatever it's Jimmy Fallon. It's the cue of the host to let them do their bit.
Yeah.
It's like, I heard you in Cabo.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Like, you've been doing dishes lately?
Yeah. It's like what's annoying you lately?
Yeah. It's like, you've been driving, you got a new car?
It's like, let me tell you about a car. Yeah. Yeah. But a guy like Chris Farley, he doesn't have anything. No. He doesn't have it. When he sits down, he's like,
it's just like, I love it. There's one clip where he sits in the chair and he literally falls backwards in the chair. And then he gets up and is like, whoa. And then he goes back and he literally does it a second time.
I'll give you my next one then.
Yes.
Right off the heels of that, very similar, a little earlier, Robin Williams.
Okay.
Same kind of thing. Obviously, he's a stand-up as well.
Yeah.
Stand-up comedian. But when he was in front of the camera, like on talk shows and stuff like that, he kind of stripped away the comedian, like the stand-up side of him. Yeah. And he became very much this same guy who was willing to... What I love about Robin Williams is he embodies a theory I have in comedy, generally speaking, where you are... as long as they like it, you can kind of eat. You get to, so he's very much like, he'll try. He's like, if you watch him on a thing, he's like, he's over here now, he's over here, and he's just like trying to keep that momentum up with the audience.
Yeah,
like there's like this feeling that he's worried that he'll stop being funny.
Yeah,
you know.
But the result of it, like, maybe that's what he's feeling. I don't know, but like the crowd is at like 9
the whole time. Exactly. Yeah.
And he's just like, you know, they go to 8 and he's like, whoa!
Yeah. And then he like sparks it back up again. I love that. It's because it's one of those techniques you find early in doing comedy, is that once you've got someone on a roll, you kind of want to keep them in that place.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to like drop down through like exposition and talking and stuff like that. If you've got that climactic point.
If the ball is spinning, like each little joke, like it's already spinning, all you got to do is like keep. It's like punchline, and it keeps it at that level.
That was a big thing. That's something I learned with him. And again, it's a lot. It's the physical comedy. It's the voices.
You know,
it's the impressions. The speed of it.
Loud.
It's that kind of stuff. Yeah, sells me.
So good. Yeah, not one I would. You know, it's funny you say that now. I'm just like, like the Genie. The Genie was like a huge influence on me, you know, as a young kid. I'll give you another one of mine. Mike Myers. Again, a lot of the same reasons, but in terms of like writing and joke, like film scripts and like an acting performance, he's one of the great comedic minds of all time, in my opinion. Like, as far as like the stickiness of his humor, like Austin Powers, I sometimes will still like. Situations will arise and like a quote will come to my head and I'm just like, oh, everyone likes the smell of their own brand, don't they? Like that. Every time I fart, I think of that. You know,
he is one of mine. Mike Myers is going to be one of mine.
He's brilliant. He's hilarious. Like this mixture of like really smart and like it seems lowbrow and it is a lot of the times, but it's brilliant and it's smart in terms of its structure and joke. Architecture, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. And he how he creates his characters. There have been many before him that had done that.
Yeah.
Especially like playing against yourself in a scene.
Yeah.
But he took his characters like so much further away from himself.
Yeah.
So whether it's, Gold Member speaking with Dr. Evil, like they're so different.
Yeah.
These characters, they're not like variations of him as Mike Myers. Like they're not subtle at all.
Yeah.
Which is, again, I love. Again, it comes back to, I love characters.
Me too.
Like,
yeah.
I love it when someone's playing this completely nothing like them character, right?
It makes me belly laugh the most.
We have 4? I think we're 4.
I think I have one more.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the same guy.
It's not going to be the same guy.
Okay.
This is my favorite.
I know your guy. My guy is Dave Chappelle.
Wow. Wasn't expecting that.
Really? He's one of my his early stand-up is truly if Mike Myers is in terms of like, scripts and films and stuff, I think Dave Chappelle is one of the great comedic minds of all time. I know I sort of emphasized the early stand-up, but truly his early stand-up is the funniest stand-up routines, in my opinion, of all time.
Absolutely. I would say if I was doing a top list of stand-up comedians, he would be my number one. I would listen to, like, you hear these stories like of comedians that you love, and you hear about the stories they tell about the comedians that they loved, and they're usually older, right? So they're like, I would be listening to them on the record, like in bed under the sheet. That was Dave Chappelle for me. Dave Chappelle's early stuff,
Killing Them Softly,
I would listen to on a CD with headphones under my blanket as a kid.
Yeah.
That was the only comedian that I did that with as a child.
And then there was the second one. I forget what it's called, but he's in like San Francisco.
It's For What It's Worth.
For What It's Worth.
I watched that special once or twice a year for the last 10 years.
Damn, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I remember in high school, we met in high school, and I remember like we were like, there's this part where he's like on the homeless guy is like holding everyone hostage on the bus. And there's this one part where the homeless guy finally takes control and he's like, "That's better. That is better."
Yeah.
And we were just like, there's something in that, like, that is better. Like that little, the power of 3.
Yeah.
We were just like deconstructing it even back then. And we would like order, A&W or something. We'd be like, with pickles, with some pickles.
Yeah.
And like we literally, I remember like we did
I remember this. I remember being at the food court trying to do this.
Yeah.
I
We're like,
remember
that's
that.
comedy.
It's the same special, something I learned was just I hadn't really seen it done so well, or really since. I'm not sure. That same joke, he's got a bit where he's talking about he's like, I had to say something. He's like, and it's not even like I was brave or anything. I mean, I was sitting next to the guy. You know what I mean?
He's like, come on, man. You hit my elbows.
Stop. Like that line of like, because he does this. He's like, he does a lot. Like he'll pause sometimes when he's saying, he's like, I was sitting next to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just that type of joke. I latched onto just like complete left field shock.
Yeah.
Of that punchline. Like you couldn't.
Yeah. So good. Now I do have, I mean, like we'll get to this at some other time, but his later specials are I think the thing about them is they're a little different. They're not, there was something really pure about his early stand-ups that were just like pure comedy to me. Mm-hmm. And now they're a little more like sage wisdom mixed with comedy, mixed with some laughs in there. Some big laughs.
We should save this because we got a lot to talk about.
Let's get to your final guy.
Do you know who it is?
Yeah, it's I know who it is. I can't. Peter Sellers.
Peter Sellers.
Yeah.
Number one comedian for me. The most influential. I remember I learned about him. There's a film with Jeffrey Rush called The Life and Death of Peter Sellers, where Jeffrey Rush plays Peter Sellers in the film. And his life sounded like mine. Like how comedy affected him personally was how it affected me. and I never felt more connected to somebody. And then I started watching his films, and again, it's the same thing. You know, it's the character actor. It's so much physical comedy. Like, it's so physical, his comedy.
Yeah.
But again, one of the big things for me was a connection to him. And have you seen that film, The Life and Death of Peter?
No.
I'll lend it to you. I've got it. It's a big thing for him was that he would dive into these characters and they would ruin his relationships with people.
Oh, interesting.
And a thing that I would do a lot is I would never kind of know what my honest self was when I was younger. I'd always like be doing a thing. They'd be like, who are you trying to be right now, Nick?
Yeah.
Like, who are you? You know?
Yeah.
And it always, whenever anyone called me out on it, it's happened like 4 times in my life, and every single time it's like shook me to the bone that I remember every single one of these moments where they're like, are you doing Larry David right now?
Oh, yeah.
And it drives me, and it's like they see something behind me.
Yeah.
Because most people don't call it out. They're just like, oh, that's funny. But if they call it out, the person that I'm doing, it scars me. Like, it makes me so upset.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a big reason for my like of him. It's more on his personal side.
Yeah.
There's a great story with John Cleese and Graham Chapman, who went and they Monty Python. And before they did Python, they were writing a film for Peter Sellers. It was a vehicle for him, and they would go to his house and they would sit with him and do the notes, right? And he would come down with his robe and be completely, it didn't sound like him, you know? He'd be like, he'd be doing all this stuff, right? And this is in John Cleese's book. He noted that he realized at a certain point that Peter Sellers he's like, oh, he's finding his voice because he doesn't know what he sounds like.
Oh my gosh.
Like, he's trying to figure out who Peter Sellers is, you know? So he has to go through all of this stuff to find himself.
Wow.
Very tormented person.
Damn.
But so funny, and such a big addition to comedy. So.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, that's our list. Those are our most influential comedians for us. I have an honorable mention for you, if I may. May I?
You may.
Okay. Jake and Amir. Jake of College Humor fame. Jake Hurwitz and Amir Blumenfeld. Their style, their writing, their performances are so good, and I'm ashamed at how much it feels like I just take what they have and use it for my own.
I haven't noticed it, but which is good. But maybe I should go look at it.
You'll notice there's a few things there. But I have to give those guys credit. But it's also like a long tradition of, like, you know, Abbott and Costello all the way back to them. So it's
absolutely, it
is what it is. But I do love just the way that Jake and Amir do it. I think they're truly brilliant. So
that would be a nice topic too. Top 5. And it doesn't have to be our own top 5, but what we think of the top 5 duos.
Yeah, comedy duos, absolutely.
You know, we've been doing a lot of duo work since high school.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of in our wheelhouse, right? So it would be nice to see what the duos are.
Yeah. Yeah, we should definitely do that. So, yeah.
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for stopping in again to the Hot Funny Meme Show. Any other... in the comments down below, why don't you tell us who your favorite comedians are, who your influences are. And
make sure to like the video. It'll help us to grow our channel and to push it out to people who are not within our subscriber list, which as of right now is everyone. So it'll really help out the channel. Also subscribe so you can find your way back here.
Absolutely.
And yeah, let us know who your favorite most influential comedian on you was. Other than that, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye. Nick, how many times have you been to Everest?
I have been to Everest 6 times,
Okay.
and I've climbed it once.
And how many Sherpas have you lost on those journeys?
Almost every single time I've lost, and they haven't even been mine. I borrowed them, which is terrible when you go back to somebody to...
I lost your Sherpa.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to lose a Sherpa. All right.